Peace, King. Can you hear me?
Peace, peace. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right, all right. Yeah, definitely. Man, I want to thank you first and foremost for coming on the platform. It's definitely an honor.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be here as well, man. I've seen some of your content, some of your interviews, so definitely happy to be here, man, for sure.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I know you got moves to make, so we're gonna get right into it. For the viewers who may not recognize you, let them know who you are and definitely where you from.
Absolutely. So I go by Abib Jahleel. Full name is Abib Jahleel Rodney. I'm a filmmaker, IT professional, and organizer. I come from I come from Brooklyn. First of all, my parents are both from Jamaica. They're both Rasta, and they had a very successful management and production company called Rory Productions. They managed this group called Whirler Girl, who essentially they ended up having the theme song for the Disney movie Cool Runnings. So I grew up pretty much on music video sets, grew up around the industry, and now I've been in the film industry, or I've been filming, making music videos, documentaries, that sort of thing for about 13 years now. So that's a little bit about my background, for people to know. Also, I'm currently based out of Atlanta, Georgia. So I moved to Atlanta in 1996 during the same year as the Olympics, and I've been here pretty much ever since, but going back and forth.
Wow, wow, that's what's up, man. I appreciate you sharing that. Big shout out to your parents for laying down that foundation. Was it anybody else in your family that was kind of into the music and the film and stuff like that? And just talk about the influence that they had on you growing up, the things that you've seen, because the average person don't have that in their house or in their family.
You're absolutely right. In terms of music, not necessarily, but in terms of organizing and community engagement, for sure. So, my mom's side of the family in Jamaica is a political family, so to speak. My grandmother, she was an elected official in St. Mary, constituency secretary, and my uncle is currently a politician in Jamaica as well. So I kind of, I have that background as well in terms of organizing. Like my mom was, she my mom was a firebrand in terms of being able to meet people. Like she's never met a stranger. I'll just put it like that. So her and my pops together. My father, he came up in Kingston, um, essentially, and he became a Rasta pretty early in his life. He started doing music, so he came up around people like he was definitely in the studio with the Whalers recording. With one of Bob Marley's producers. The name escapes me right now, and I'm blanking. But Lee Scratch Perry, excuse me. He would record with Lee Scratch Perry. He had a lot of pretty much anybody you can think of in terms of dancehall and reggae. My father probably knows them, honestly. And he started really early in the '70s, and so throughout the '80s, they were pushing their Roots brand, which is it's a drink. It's kind of like a tonic, so it comes from the Maroons because I also have a Maroon background. But it's basically a tonic. It's a fermented drink, and so they use that business, and the funds from that business to start a management company. And I was born in '88, so from the time I was born, the only thing I know was the industry. Like literally grew up in limos, grew up in music video sets, and that kind of thing. So it was a very fast life. My mom and them, they used to go to Jamaica quite a bit, and I would travel with them when I was a little kid. And sometimes I would be with cousins and aunties, and didn't really see my family for a week. Sometimes I was right there when it was a bashment, or some a sound clash or a party. I was there, right? So it was a very fast life growing up, and it rubbed off on me now as an adult. Pretty much, I mean, I can't get away from it, right? So yeah, for sure.
Okay, okay. Wow, that's what's up. Now I can ask you on the political side, did you kind of take to those things early on as well, or was that something that kind of came later? And just how have you used that to navigate through life? You being raised in America and going back and forth to Jamaica. A lot of Black Americans don't have that experience. They don't even leave their city or their side of town.
Man, it's funny you say that, right? Because growing up as a Rasta now, most people just tend to think about the culture, the music, the food, that kind of thing. But growing up in Rasta was different for me because my parents were very active. They was a part of an organization called 12 Tribes of Israel, and their whole thing was repatriation back to Africa. So I don't know if you ever heard of a place called Shashamani in Ethiopia. But they were very much so connected to that community. They used to do events and parties and festivals and that kind of thing to raise money for the movement. So I was around that a lot as well in terms of organizing. My mom, she could have went the way of a politician. She definitely was on that path, but she chose activism, right? She chose to become a Rasta, her and my father, right? So um, it definitely showed me how to not be afraid to approach people. Showed me not to be afraid on presenting myself and that kind of a thing. Um, those kind of skills rubbed off on me from my mom. But I wouldn't say that it had a big impact on me in my early years. Definitely much later as I became an adult, I started to kind of embrace that side of the family and embrace some of those things because as a Rasta, as a Pan Africanist, I mean, obviously, organizing and bringing unity to the community was something that was very much so important. So now that I'm, much older, I've been doing a lot more of that work. So I do, I volunteer as a consular assistant with the Jamaican consulate in Atlanta. I'm constantly, I also teach filmmaking to West African students and filmmaking to Ethiopian college students as well. So I would say now that's essentially how it's rubbed off on me and being active in the movement and really just trying to teach some of these skills to our people and bring them up to speed.
Wow, that's dope, man. You dropping a lot of gems. I appreciate you sharing that information. Let me see. You didn't say so much. Now you had throughout a couple terms. Sometimes the viewers they may not be up on certain things, like when you say a Maroon or Shashamani or Rasta. Now I've been to Ethiopia a few times, so I'm familiar with Shashamani and the Rasta movement. But if you could kind of talk a little bit about what that is.
Absolutely. So, all right. So I'll start with from the beginning. So Maroons were the Africans that were taken to Jamaica who escaped their bondage and essentially a lot of in the early years, we're talking the 1500s, they teamed up with some of the Tainos and their nations, if you will, their societies, if you will, in the hills. And eventually, as the Taino numbers started to dwindle, it was mostly, if not all, African at that point. So the Maroons are basically, you can think of them as a West African nation or society in the Caribbean. Jamaica has different maroon groups, but there are maroon groups all over the Caribbean, all over the Americas, Central, South, North. My maroon group is Queen Nanny's Maroon, so it's Nannytown, also known as Moortown. I come from the Harris clan. My grandmother was Leela Harris, and so me, my mom, I mean, pretty much all my grandmother's kids, my uncle, my auntie, like all of my aunties and uncles from that side are come from that line, so they're all Maroons as well. Colonel Harris, but is a cousin of mine. Sometimes I say distant cousin, but I'm more like an elder cousin. I don't know what the best term is, but we'll just go with distant cousin. But Colonel Harris is a distant cousin of mine, and he was a mentor to my uncle Bobby Robert Montague in Jamaica, who's the politician. He's a what is his title? He's the chair of the JLP political party. So, just to kind of follow the lineage of the Maroons, that's essentially who we are. As far as Rasta, so Rastafari it is a cultural and political movement. More importantly, it's a way of life. And so the way it started was it was kind of like a lot of these people were UNIA members of and a lot of the early Rastas, people like Leonard Howe were friends of Marcus Garvey, and so it was an intellectual argument going on to move away from imperialism, move away from these more European fraternities, these European institutions, and so they wanted to kind of get away from the idea of European Christianity, European monarchy, just all of these different institutions that we know and love that were oppressing Jamaica at the time because in 1930 Jamaica was a colony of the British. So the Rastas, a lot of them were also tapped in something called Ethiopianism, which really wanted to tap more into the Coptic Christian tradition coming out of Egypt and Ethiopia. So a lot of people were looking to Ethiopia's monarchy as a symbol for Black sovereignty. And Haile Selassie was the emperor or was crowned the emperor of Ethiopia, which was one of the only independent nations in Africa at the time during colonization. So they pledged their loyalty to the emperor. And that was the argument there, that they didn't want to be under the Queen of England, they wanted to be under the Emperor of Ethiopia. And so Rastas devoted themselves to as subjects of Ethiopia, and Ethiopia at the time as well was being attacked by Italy, and so a lot of Caribbean men, a lot of North American, African Americans were also trying to go to Ethiopia to defend it against Italy, and that was really the beginning of the movement. And from there, it kind of just blew up and expanded. Reggae music became something that was kind of an expression of Rastas at the time. And as we all know, Bob Marley being one of the biggest reggae superstars in the world, he pretty much brought it to the world internationally. He wasn't the only one, but he was definitely the biggest one. And from there, that's when the movement really kind of took a different turn as well. So um, that's a really like surface level overview. But Shashamani was it's land that Haile Selassie gave to the diaspora, not just Rastas, as a thank you and as a way of being a contribution to the movement for liberation. So a lot of people in the diaspora were supporting Haile Selassie, and he gave that land Shashamani for them to come back and repatriate. So if you know, obviously everyone knows what's going on in Israel right now, and but a lot of people don't know that the UN is the one who created Israel as we know it today, and they gave that land to the Jewish population. So Haile Selassie, being a founding member of the UN, saw that they were doing that and said, "Well, I'm going to do the same thing for the African diaspora and give some of my land," and that's what Shashamani is. So Shashamani is definitely something that's very important to Rastas, very important to Pan Africanists that are aware of it. And Haile Selassie is definitely one of our most important leaders in the Pan African movement.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. I appreciate you breaking that down. I mean, you gave them more than enough, man. I appreciate that. Now, you had spoke about teaching Africans, I believe you said in Ethiopia and West Africa. If you could talk about that a little bit. Now, is it a similar, I guess, situation on the East and the West, or is it like a totally different thing if you could kind of go into it?
Absolutely. So man, so doing this work, man, I was able to meet a lot of different kind of people. One of the people I met was a young lady named Isata Richards. She's funny enough, she's also from Brooklyn. She's Liberian, and I believe her father is from Senegal. And she has an NGO called Societies of Unity, and she was in Liberia for about 2 or 3 years, pushing the program on the ground. And so she started this new ed tech program called Unpackaged Stories, and it's a whole platform to basically teach filmmaking internationally, but focusing on West Africa in particular. So I came on as one of the lead mentors to teach a the basics of filmmaking class to a 10-week course. And so, right now, overall, the program services about 300 students, and it's growing. And in my classroom alone is about 71 people, and we're on week 7. So it's been growing exponentially since we started. As far as the Ethiopian college students, it's this powerful brother, man. His name is Miles Henderson. He I think he's the co-chair of the African Youth Forum, and I may be pronouncing that incorrectly, but the African Youth Forum in the United Nations, so in the UN. So he's been doing this work for a long time. He used to work with Dr. Ericana, if I'm saying her name properly, in Washington D.C., and now he has a collegiate organization called True Culture University. He has chapters pretty much all over Ethiopia. The University of Ghana, I believe Howard University as well, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm misquoting, my bad, but he got chapters pretty much all across all these different African and HBCU universities. So the one that we're kind of focused on now is the universities in Ethiopia, particularly in Addis Ababa. So Addis Ababa University, and a lot of the members of True Culture University are now a part of this workshop. So it's pretty much exclusively Ethiopian college students, but they're not the only ones that can join, but right now that's who I'm servicing. But that class is more so geared towards Afrofuturism and AI in filmmaking rather than just filmmaking. So I'm on week 2 of that workshop, and I'm on week 7 of the Unpackaged Stories workshop. So that's what I'm doing right now, man, and it's been a very fulfilling experience.
Yeah, man, that sounds like a dream, man. That's dope. You doing what you love to do. You inspiring people. You traveling. That's just amazing. Now I guess my next question, I guess I could ask you by you going to the Caribbean, working with the brothers on the east and the west. and being in the States and Atlanta, you know what I'm saying? I guess what's your perspective on, like, in America, I guess, or a lot of the diaspora, they may feel like, well, we've been out of Africa so long, we not are we really African still, or even to the point where some like we're not even African at all, and a lot of those people, they just haven't had the opportunity to even connect with other Africans, let alone being able to travel or teach them or interact with them.
Man, so that's such a multi-layered question, discussion, idea. I mean, we could dissect that all day. What I would say is we live in a society that isn't necessarily focused on our African heritage as much as they are on other parts of this country's heritage. I'll put it like that. And I think that gives us this sense of disconnection that doesn't actually exist, right? There's a lot of things that we're not really aware of. Simple things like, you know, yams. Like every black person in America know what yams are. They don't know that that's an African term, that's an African food, right? They don't even know that that's their black eyed peas, collard greens. I mean, I can go on and on and on. Even simple things like us saying, "Yo, hey yo," that is also an African expression or an African term, right? In Ghana, they use yo almost like as an exclamation or to end the sentence, right? So it's just little things that we're connected to that we just don't realize. I mean, even me, right? As connected as I think I am, there are a lot of things that I don't know. And I think that's the beauty of traveling. That's the beauty of connecting with other communities is to find commonality. Because yeah, Pan Africanism says that we're the same, but Pan Africanism is really about unity of different kinds of people, right? It is a source of unity. One of the things that we are disconnected from is the geopolitics of the continent. So division is everywhere, right? You have ethnic groups in Ethiopia right now that are at each other for whatever reason. Pan Africanism comes in and says, look, we have a lot more in common than we have differences, and we have bigger fish to fry. And it is incumbent upon us to unite and come together and work together. So those people who have issues now, the whole point of Pan Africanism is to bring them together. So when I speak to African Americans, I grew up here. This is all I know, right? When I speak to African Americans, I emphasize the fact that the whole point of this is to bring us together for the bigger picture, to share resources, to work together. We're not going to be exactly the same. We're going to have differences. We're going to have arguments. We have history with each other in this country that it can't just be solved with a kumbaya. So the whole point is for us to come together and figure it out. And I think if more people was less negative and less emotional about it, and really just came with an open mind, we can talk through a lot of these issues. Honestly,
Man, that's what's up. I appreciate you even going into it like that. And I kind of want to talk about some of your film projects. If you could talk about some of the joints you put out. Now, I had looked at your bio. I got a chance to check out a couple clips. You had with art for sale. I am not. I create art. So the viewers, if they want to check out what some of the stuff that you done did, if you could just kind of talk about those projects or some other ones.
absolutely. So in terms of recent projects, so I have a film documentary series or docu series called I Create Art, and basically I have a lot of context in the Atlanta area. I meet some very interesting, amazing people in the African diaspora and otherwise. And so I Create Art is a way to really focus on art. A lot of times, with these interviews, we can get real technical. Some of these podcasts, we like to break things down in terms of business and vision and things like that. Me, I really wanted to focus on the artists and give them an opportunity to talk about like what inspires them, what just the art of it. Like what kind of movies do you consume? What inspires your style? Like how did you even get into, maybe you're into South African wine or something and that inspires your films. I don't know. But I create art as a way for them to kind of express that. So I've done quite a few episodes. I'm on season 2 right now. The last one I put out it was I Create Art Clarence Congo. It's a 25-minute short film, and Clarence is another powerful brother. He's a blacksmith, and he was on the show Forged in Fire. It was a reality TV show. I believe it was on the History Channel, and he had traveled to Mali to learn blacksmithing in Mali. So the documentary kind of talks about his journey. and talks about how he ended up in Mali and how he ended up on the reality TV show. So that was one of the most recent ones. I also co-own an organization called Love, and we've been putting on events since 2015. I joined the team in 2018 as a creative director specifically. But we also, we do Love Fest, and so right now we're working on a documentary talking about Love Fest in Atlanta, how long we've been doing it, some of the alumni, people like Gray. I don't know if you're familiar with Gray, but he did the famous Thanksgiving rap song, greens, beans, hams, potato, like great. So he's very well known, very very dope rapper, dope MC. Um, but he's been on the Love Fest stage, and so people, a lot of other people, a lot of other artists, King Cooley. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And so the documentary is an opportunity to showcase some of the alumni, showcase what we've been doing in terms of partnering with different organizations, and just getting people more familiar with our brand. Also talking about Love, my one of my business partners, his name is AJ, or Alfred Nomad rather. He just did a residency program called One Beat in Ghana. So he was in Ghana for a couple of weeks and he just came back. So we're putting together a short film about that experience. And he's also putting out a music project around that experience as well. So those are some of the projects that I'm working on now. There's some other thing in the works too, but I don't want to, throw too much information out there. But we got some dope stuff coming, man, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's major, man. That's inspiring. Now I can ask you, like for the viewers, if they want to follow what you're doing, do you have a channel or do you have a website, or is it better to kind of get with you on social media?
Absolutely, man. I mean, so I have an Instagram where I mostly post my work. So you can follow me at icreateart.atl on Instagram. We also of course love, we spread love. Love is spelled LXVE instead of LOVE. So we spread love on Instagram as well. And then of course we spreadlove.com is the website. If you want to follow that. Now, as far as me professionally, you can follow me on or you can connect with me on LinkedIn at Abib Rodney. Same thing with Facebook, Abib Rodney. And so you'll see me pretty much posting all of the different activities that I'm a part of and all the other stuff that I do. And yeah, man, maybe we can connect and work together and do some things. Yeah, man, I'm always open to meeting people and working together.
Oh yeah, that's what's up. I appreciate you connecting with me, man. I've been checking you out for a while. You got a large resume, so I still got to go back and check out a lot of the stuff you did. I definitely look forward to the up and coming projects. It's definitely been a great episode for sure, for sure. I'm still processing. You was dropping so much information, man. I'm still processing it myself. So I want to thank you, for coming through. Thank the viewers for tuning in. Man, that's it for sure. Unless you got something else you want to hit them with.
Nah, man, I appreciate the opportunity, man, and I definitely wanted to make sure I came prepared and came ready to present, so people could understand. Because sometimes when you do this work, man, you do so much. I like same thing with you. Like I've been following you for a minute, and I saw you on Kingana, I believe. Didn't even know you had your own show, So and you help people travel around Africa, right? So sometimes we do so much is hard to kind of put it into a box. So I wanted to make sure I was able to come and really get people to wrap their head around what it is that I do and how I do it. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and man, I look forward to speaking to you guys some more.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm in Ghana right now, but I should be probably back out in the States or something. I got some people down south, so I'm gonna try to connect with you, man. If I can't connect with you in person, we'll get it in online somehow, some way again.
Absolutely, brother. Much appreciated.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, peace, King. Be safe out there.